Stay tuned.
Stay protected.
Stay focused.
Stay connected.
There's a lot of different types of HELOC products that are now on the market, some of them geared towards velocity banking, and that's really good news.
This is probably the largest asset you will ever have in your life.
Right.
Here's some direction and some instruction on how to leverage this vehicle so that you can help yourself, help your family, accomplish your goals. We're not educated that way.
We use a strategy to pay off our home in 4 years.
Validation of your retirement account says what you thought was a retirement account is no longer one.
When I tell you, you're going to be shocked to learn. If you didn't come from a wealthy family,
You can make sure a wealthy family comes from you. So it starts with pay yourself first, today,
Yeah, starting today.
right now. Put your money in somewhere secure. It's about the ability to not lose. I will take base hits all day long versus winning and losing. Somewhere secure, compound your money, and then you leverage OPM, other people's money, to exponentially grow it. That's how you generate wealth.
So whether you're joining us to crush debt or build wealth, time is the most valuable asset.
and we're so grateful that you're spending your time here with us.
Good evening. Tonight we are going to talk about how one of our callers, crushed $158,000 in debt in less than 3 years, in about 30 months.
Yep.
If you think that this is mind-blowing, how did this happen? How is it possible? This sounds like a scam. This sounds like clickbait. It's not. If you've been here before, then you know that we have done this time and time again, and we have proven this over and over. You're in for a treat because this is a unique story, and I think that more people need to see the proof so that they can also implement these strategies into their lives. I mean, that's what made the big difference for us.
Right. And there's a theme that I've been seeing. And mainly the theme is around, I believe I want to eliminate this debt because this debt has been weighing on me. But the truth is it really about the debt? Like, what is the real objective behind this, hey, I want to eliminate this debt piece, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, and for a lot of people that they've maybe it's you, maybe you've watched our live streams or our videos multiple times. You've sat through all of them and you still have not taken action. And if you think back to the first velocity making video that you saw, and if you're maybe hesitant to take action because you're just not sure, you just don't have the confidence, what you're about to see is what happened in a 30, 45 minute, how long was it?
Actually, you know what? So the first call was 10 minutes and then the second was 30. So it was about 40. It's about a 40-minute call combined.
Yeah. About 40 minutes is all it took for her to get this action plan from start to finish of how she could crush this debt. How long have people waited? How long have they been walking around with this debt, right? How long had she been walking around with this debt? And in 40 minutes, she had now a complete pathway to be able to eliminate it. So that's the power in the consultations that are provided to you. They're available to you. So if you've had a call before and you still need the help and you still haven't taken action and you still are unsure, then get on his calendar. What you're about to see is insane when you think about it. Well, because how many people are just sitting there with their debt and they're not taking action? And can you imagine if we had dragged our feet?
Right. And, you know, the objective for today is also to share some maybe details that we don't normally. I'm going to dig into a little bit more of the details related to the home equity line of credit that they received and how we went about it. So hopefully we'll also share some things with it that maybe you haven't seen before. So if you've sat through one of these velocity banking discussions before, this might be a little bit different too.
Oh gosh. And look, we have some replay people are just going to have to scrub forward. We have some new fam. Some tenured fam in the house. Hey, Peaky. Hey, Jay. And you know what? We see your comments all the time. We haven't had a chance for you to jump in live with us for a minute. So good to see everybody out there. Okay, if you're watching, jump in the comments so that we know that you're here. We would love to say hello and just at least know who's out here, who's joining us.
Who's hanging today?
Yeah. Who's hanging? Where are you from? And have you put a plan into action? I think right here in the comment section and inside of the community is where other people get that proof. They get the confidence to take those steps, right? And had you not taken the steps to become proof, maybe you're one of the stories that we've covered before. Either way, I feel like just sharing, jumping in the comments or jumping in the chat to share is really important. All right, you ready to jump in?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, hold on. Here we go. All right. It's a new game. He has to beat the video to get over to the vibe board. Yeah, so good luck. Here you go.
You saw me run.
1, 2, 3, 4.
The goal should be, where can I achieve exponential growth? Exponential growth.
Let's just get into it. Let's just get into it.
Hey, he made it. Yep.
All right. And can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Sounding pretty good. All right. So again, the objective for today is a take on a subject that we've covered many times. This is a velocity banking discussion, and we are jumping into a line of credit to be able to do that velocity banking. But there's a little bit of a twist because I wanted to make sure that I shared a few more details that I don't normally do. And so what is velocity banking for those who may not know what it is we're talking about? Basically, it's just a strategy. It's a strategy that's designed to eliminate debt. And here's my thought process. I don't know about anyone else's, but this is mine. It is, how can you ever focus on producing financial freedom or generating wealth or firing your job or retiring early? How can any of those ever be an option if you don't have cash flow? And so what velocity banking did for us, it allowed us to be able to free up that cash flow to be able to go tackle and do other things. And so the objective here is just simply to kind of walk through the strategy. I keep telling people, I tell them all the time, I don't consider myself a velocity banking guru. It's just a strategy that I understand. And when I understand something, my objective is to share it with you. So it's a strategy that is focused around eliminating debt. And what does it do for you? It allows you to pay off debt faster. It allows you to free up cash flow. And when you're able to free up that cash flow, it allows you to get multiple uses out of the same dollar to invest in other things. Because the main objective here, at least for me, is to put my money in a position to where I can pivot. And if we haven't learned anything else over these last few weeks, the ability to pivot is important. Because if you thought your retirement was going to hinge upon someone's stock market performance, think again. So we have to be in a position to where we can use our assets to be able to pivot. And where are your assets located? In most cases, the largest asset we have is our home. The largest asset we have is our ability to leverage our home to be able to do other things. And in most cases, most people do velocity banking this way, which is not velocity banking. They get paid, and when that income comes into their checking account, they pay bills, whatever those bills are. And then whatever's left over, that cash flow that's left over, lives in that checking account. This is how most of us handle our normal expenses. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the piece is, how is this cash flow, what is it doing for you? Is there an opportunity to put that cash flow to work so that it can do other things? And so in order to do velocity banking, we just need a few items. When I get on a call, usually the first question I ask is what's the goal? And then the next one I ask is, what are your numbers? What's your income? What's coming into and going out of your checking account? What are your bills and your debts? And when I'm talking about debts, I am talking about what is that bare minimum that you put on those debts. Meaning, I know a lot of us, well, we all have credit card debt, and most of us, when the credit card statement says, hey, you only owe $50 on this $5,000 balance, most of us do not pay $50. Most of us pay $100, $150, whatever that extra dollar amount is. But when we're assessing these numbers, I want to know what is the bare minimum. Why? To understand what the bare minimum is, that allows me to understand what is your cash flow and what's left over at the end of the month. So these are the numbers we need. And what does that process look like? What does that strategy look like? Again, income comes into your checking account. It immediately goes from your checking account to some type of debt tool. There are many types of debt tools, but then we pay bills from that debt tool. And in some cases, this is not always possible. But the objective is to put yourself in a position to where we can pay bills from the debt tool. And then this cash flow that's left over ends up sitting on the debt tool, which allows you to pay off the debt faster and then be able to leverage that tool to be able to invest in other things, grow your money elsewhere. That's ultimately the objective. And this is our, I'll call it, case study for today. It's related to Laura. Laura's 55 years of age, and she has great income. She has income of about $10,000 a month, and she's got a healthy savings as well. Because she has a healthy savings, I think there's just a lot of opportunity here. This is the ending cash flow. This isn't the cash flow where it started, but again, she has healthy cash flow. And the goal, her goal, is to eliminate this $284,000 mortgage within the next 4 years, because she's got about 20, I think it's like 27 years or so left on the mortgage, and ultimately put her money in a position to where she can focus on freedom. Well, when I look at that goal, I bypass this. I bypass savings. I go directly to financial freedom. But what she told me was her goal is to pay off this home so that she can focus on freedom. Okay. And these were the pieces that she wanted to discuss. It was, hey, I'm looking at a first position home equity line of credit, and I'm concerned about the variable rate. So whether it's a first or a second position, most people are concerned about the variable rate associated with that line of credit. And it's the cost. The cost to be able to have or achieve that product, being concerned about that. And then also the strategy. I'm just curious. And that's the reason why this question is sitting here. For those of you who have been on here a while, for those of you who are here for the first time, I'm very curious. What do you think, looking at this, I'll call it the structure of this profile, 55 years of age, decent income, decent cash flow, got a goal and concerned about a few problems. What is the most important piece you think I see? And if my regulars are there, someone's going to put in the comments, what's the goal? And that is true. The goal is absolutely very important. But a lot of times the goal that is provided to me, we actually have to peel back the layers to understand the true goal. While this is the goal she stated, I personally don't believe this is actually what her goal is. I think it's rooted here, but that's not the point. My question is, what do you think out of this profile, what is the most important piece? And the answer to that test is, it's the strategy. Meaning, she's got great income. That great income won't bring her freedom if she doesn't know how to use it. She's got great cash flow. The cash flow doesn't matter if she's spending it on trips and stuff and things and trying to keep up with people that don't care about her. The goal. Yeah, we can have a goal all day long. But if we don't apply the proper strategy to achieve that goal, it's going to be very difficult to get to it. So what I appreciated about her concerns was she was very adamant about, I think I understand velocity banking, but I am very unsure as to how this first position home equity line of credit is supposed to work. And I appreciated that because I think there's a lot of people who also fit in this bucket. They watch these gurus who talk about velocity banking, or they get into velocity banking and they're freeing up the debt. And I am absolutely one who says, hey, as your credit score improves, go after those lines of credit, not to use, just to have. So people end up with these first position or second position home equity lines of credit. But if you're not applying the strategy effectively, you can get yourself in trouble. So to me, the most important piece in this profile is making sure she understands the strategy. So that was the kind of the purpose of me wanting to do this live. I've talked this over with her, and as we talked earlier, I think the amount of time I spent with her in total may have been 40 minutes. But I hope this will serve also as just another guide to kind of help walk through and step through this process. And what is her profile? Like, where does she currently sit today? And I'll zoom in on a lot of, because there's a lot of information on this slide. I'll zoom in, of course, but it starts with she's got a home. And again, for most of us, our home is our largest asset. Yes, she's got some debt. Not a whole lot, about $31,000 in debt. Okay. The home is worth about $600,000. The home itself is worth about 600. Did I spell worth right? Yeah. The home is worth about 600,000. The balance on the mortgage is about $284,000. So that is what's owed today on the mortgage. And she's paying about a 4.6% interest rate on her mortgage, which equates to about a $3,000 a month mortgage payment. She's got about 27 years left on this mortgage. So the objective is how can she eliminate this so that she can focus more on building wealth. And notice, yeah, she's got some credit card debt, but that wasn't even a part of the question. It was, I can handle this. She was not concerned about paying off this credit card debt. It was getting rid of this. And usually I ask questions like, well, what's the interest rate on on these credit cards? Are we talking 19% or 20%? To me, these are probably more impactful to her credit profile. But again, I do what I'm told in most cases, and that is, hey, I want to eliminate this mortgage. What does that look like? And she does qualify for a first position home equity line of credit. So notice, this first position home equity line of credit is saying what? I am going to replace this mortgage with this item. So once this is done, this mortgage will no longer be there. This mortgage will be gone once we're done. But first, it's just understanding, one, where I fit. Do I understand the strategy and can I qualify? So she's got a $284,000 mortgage going after $284,000 line of credit. And that line of credit, the interest only payment in month one on this line of credit based off the 7.65% interest rate would be about $1,825. So we're already making money if she shifted over to a first position, because the $1,825 a month interest only payment, which used to look like $3,056, there is a savings there. But again, that is interest only. If she only applies that interest only payment to this process, we'll never pay this home off. She'll get herself in a worse position. But the bottom line is this is the structure as of today. And again, the goal is to eliminate that $284,000 mortgage so that she can, again, as we started to peel back the layers, so that she can retire by 65. How old is she? She's 55. So we've got about 10 years to be able to knock this out. And one other piece that I don't normally add during this process is details on the line of credit. So I wanted to just spend a little bit of time here. And this is actually a line, she interviewed at several banks, but she's landing on first lien HELOC. We like first lien HELOC around here. They offer a pretty good product, specifically because they have a sweep account. So I'm absolutely a fan of first lien HELOC. And the variable rate, let me make that a little bit smaller. The variable rate adjusts on the first day of each month. That's not unusual. That it is not unusual that the variable rate, or one, it's not unusual to have a first position home equity line of credit with a variable rate. Not a problem, not unusual. This one is somewhat unique. Most of us who have a line of credit, the performance or the interest on that line of credit is based on prime plus a percentage. This one is actually based off a 6-month T-bill index plus 3.75% more margin. Do you know what that means? And let's be clear. I don't know that I'm the best in understanding what that means, but here's the moral of the story though. They all function the same. Most lines of credit all have a variable rate, and that variable rate doesn't change by the hour. It's usually some performance over time. And as long as you're following the strategy, as long as you're following the process of driving your income through the line of credit, this doesn't even matter, because it's also a higher rate. She was paying for, I'm sure someone in the comment at some point is going to say, wait a minute, why didn't she just apply her cash flow to the 4.6%? It's a lower rate. Like, I'm with you on all of that. The truth is, none of this matters if she's following the strategy, and we'll dig into the strategy. I did appreciate this because this is unique. There is a floor and or a ceiling cap, meaning the lowest it can go is 4.75, the highest is 13.65. My interest rate on my first position home equity line of credit has no ceiling. So yeah, it can become 30% if we allowed it to. Now, we do have the ability to lock it in, but my point is there's no ceiling. At least on this line of credit, and again, it's coming from first lien HELOC. Again, we like them around here. The ceiling on this is 13.65. I thought that was pretty good because that's still less than any credit card you could find. So I saw no issue with that. And then there are fees. And this was a part of her concern. She didn't understand the fees that she was seeing and whether or not she should be concerned about them is the question. And there's lender fees, there's title and recording fees, there's appraisal costs, like there's all of these different fees. Well, what I asked her to do was go back to your lender, go back to your current lender, leave first lien alone, go back to the current lender who has your mortgage and just ask, what would it cost to refinance? What would it cost to refinance the current mortgage that's at 4.6% to whatever the new rate would be because she wants to do a cash out refi? Just ask the question. And what she learned was we're talking about somewhere around 25 grand is what it would cost her to refinance. Versus if you add all of this up, and again, I get it, we don't have the title and recording costs, but if we were to just to add this up, we're talking about maybe less than $3,000 total to be able to refinance from a mortgage to a first position home equity line of credit. So is this enough? Do you feel like this is enough? If this is you and you had to make this decision on whether or not you were going to move forward with a first position home equity line of credit, is this enough information for you to say yes or no? I like the products. I don't think the 4.6% mortgage rate is bad. I hate the $3,000 a month mortgage. I hate it. $3,000 a month for $284. In my mind, I am still living in low interest rate times. $3,000 on a $284,000 balance mortgage to me is insane. So I do not like that. I'm not mad at the $1,825 monthly interest only payment on this line of credit, but that interest only payment still seems high to me. So my question to you is this enough information to make your decision? And I have to lean towards, I don't know that I have enough yet. So we need to dig into more detail. So this is where we start applying the strategy. You guys have seen this before, one of my favorite slides. Because as you start to eliminate debt, and how do you eliminate that debt? By getting multiple uses out of the same dollar. So you're driving your income through a debt tool, and you're using that debt tool to then eliminate debt. And as you eliminate debt, your ability to crush debt becomes larger. And as it becomes larger, it doesn't matter what the interest is. It doesn't matter whether the interest rate is based off the T-bill or based off prime. Doesn't matter because of the your ability to be able to crush debt at such a quick pace that this interest rate has no impact. And in addition, as I tend to forget about this slide, there's also other incentives. There's also other, I'll call it benefits to having a debt tool like a credit card that gives you cash back and different things like that. So there's other incentives as well. But my point is, if you're following the strategy, the interest will play very little role in your ability to be able to eliminate debt. And we talked a lot about a debt tool. Specifically today, we're talking about a home equity line of credit, but there are different types. Can you use a credit card to do velocity banking? Absolutely. Can you use a PLOC or BLOC? Absolutely. Can you borrow from your self-directed 401k for 50% what's in it, up to $50,000, and use that dollar amount to assist in this process? Absolutely. What about leverage against cash value life insurance policy? What about leverage against stocks and your stock portfolio? Meaning there are other opportunities, other vehicles that we don't even talk about. So this is not the only path. I just find it to be a very efficient path to go after a line of credit. And again, do we have enough information as of right now based off our current situation? Do we know the answers to these questions as it relates to our income? Yep, we know it's about 10K. So we're good on that. And yep, we're good on because she's using first lien HELOC for a debt tool. Here's what we know about first lien HELOC's, what do you call it? Product. That's the word I was looking for. What do we know about first lien HELOC's product? We know it has a sweep account. We know it offers checks and a debit card. We know you can pay bills directly from that line of credit. So it's an awesome tool. Go ahead, sweetheart.
We know that they've designed it for people wanting to use the strategy.
Banking.
Yeah, exactly.
That is correct. That is correct. And we know she's got about 31K in debt, and she's got a 284K that she wants to pay off. So we have a fair amount of information, and we know we're wanting to use a first position HELOC. But what about the cash flow? Do we know the cash flow? Well, let's do the math and better understand the cash flow, because I think we have almost enough information, just don't fully understand the cash flow as of yet. So let's kind of dig into, and I think this is where I want to jump over to the full vibe board, sweetheart. So, well, what I wanted to dig into is better understanding her cash flow. So I'm showing month 0. What I'm saying is before she implements velocity banking, where does she currently sit? Is what I kind of wanted to walk through. So again, I'll zoom in some areas so we understand her income. She's making about $10,000 a month, and that income goes right into her checking account, and she uses that income to address her bills. She uses that income to address her debts and her expenses. And she's got this mortgage payment of about $3,056. She's got a total bills when you do electric, gas, all of that kind of fun stuff. It's about $31.75 a month. And she does have some debts. Again, she's got some credit card debts. And I want to say that credit card total is about $31K, if I'm not mistaken. She seemed very, I'll call it, not concerned around the credit card debt. She feels as though she could eliminate that at any point. And so her main objective was she wants to get rid of this piece. And so when you add up her current expenses and her debts, it equates to about $6,600 a month. And so if we are comparing her income to the bills that she's paying and the debts going out, her cash flow is sitting at about $4,000 a month. Okay, let's do some simple math. $4,000 a month, 4 times 12, that's 48 grand a year. What could you do with an additional $48,000 a year? And how about this? If I've got $48,000 a year, do I need a line of credit to be able to pay off this mortgage? Like, what if I just put an additional $4,000 a month onto my mortgage? Like, that could happen. And that's why this is sitting here. If she were to simply take that $4,000 a month, multiply that by 12, 48 grand, take that $48,000 and just dump it into the mortgage, this home will be paid off in 6 years. She's 50. Go ahead, sweetheart.
But would she have a penalty for paying early?
That's a great question, because it's very possible. A lot of times banks and their mortgages realize that this is their main source of income from you. So the last thing they want you to do is pay it off early. But would I take a prepayment penalty to have this home paid off in 6 years? I think I might take that fight. Meaning, I doubt the prepayment penalty is much more than maybe, let's call it 10 grand, which is stupid. But regardless, would I pay an additional 10 grand to not have to pay 25 years of interest? All day long. So my point is, for those of you who may be wondering whether or not this is even necessary, I'm kind of with you. With the cash flow that she has, this home will be paid off in 6 years. But let's be clear. She's 55 years of age. Let's say she uses this cash flow to pay off this home, and it takes her 6 years to do it. At 55 to age 60, 61 is now the new age after paying off this home. Did paying off this home produce any financial freedom for her? Did paying off this home do anything more than eliminate a debt? It did not put any extra money in her pocket. And if the goal is to retire at 65, because remember, that was the goal. It was, hey, I'm 55, I want to pay off this home, I want financial freedom. Oh, and I want to retire by 65. Putting $284,000 into this home and not being able to get anything out of it other than no longer having a mortgage, how did that help her achieve financial freedom? How do you put it, sweetheart? You can be debt-free and broke at the same time?
Sure can.
So even though this is possible, I don't find that to be the right solution. And now let's go a step further. When people are asking me, hey, should I get a HELOC, a line of credit? Should I get a first position or a second position? This is what matters to me. What you have in cash flow should determine whether or not you should or should not get a product like that. If she only had $400 in cash flow, but she wanted a $284,000 line of credit, my answer would be no. But because she's sitting at 48 grand a year in cash flow, 48 grand a year going into a line of credit is going to crush this line of credit, which means she would have this product paid off pretty fast. So based off her month zero status, I think she's in a solid position to be able to handle this line of credit. And again, just to understand what it is, we're talking a 7.625 first position home equity line of credit for $284,000, and we're going to use this to pay off the mortgage. The mortgage will be eliminated. So, okay, let's say we eliminate this mortgage. What does month zero look like when we pay off this mortgage using the line of credit? And again, I'll zoom in areas, but ultimately, I no longer have this $3,000 a month payment, but I did pick up an $1,825 interest-only payment.
Can't see it.
I know. I'll get there. But my point, oh, you mean can't see it like that? Yeah. Oh, I got you. My bad. Okay, my bad. So you eliminate a $3,000 monthly payment and you're picking up an 1825 home equity line of credit payment. But still, how does this process look and what happens to my cash flow? So that's where, in this case, the cash flow shifts. Because I am no longer paying that mortgage, which was $3,056, but I am paying an interest-only payment of $1,825, $3,056 minus $1,825 allows my cash flow to then increase because my debts, my expenses are decreasing. So therefore, my cash flow goes from $4,000 a month up to $54, $52, almost a $1,400 or over a $1,400 increase in my cash flow. Pretty positive. So now I have even more that will allow me to pay off this line of credit quickly. And so in that case, now it's all about doing the strategy. And what's the strategy? As my income comes in, it's going to jump into my checking account. And the way first lien HELOC works is once it jumps into my checking account at midnight, everything in that checking account gets swept into this line of credit. And I have the ability, or she would have the ability, to then pay her bills from this line of credit. And again, there's nothing going to the mortgage, but she's got her normal bills of $31.75 and she's got the additional increase in her debts of about $21.95. But once all of that is done, this $54.52 is now sitting on this line of credit, driving this balance down. So what does that look like in month one? And I'll zoom in. But in month one, again, income came in, jumped into my checking, it was swept into my line of credit, I paid my bills, and then at the end of month one, that $284,000 balance dropped by the cash flow that I have, leaving an ending balance in month one of $278,548. So the process is working. And again, there's a lot that I am assuming, there's a lot that I am not concerned with. And let me just share one here. That $1,825 interest-only payment is based off this total balance of $284,000. Yes? But at the end of month one, after this cash flow is sitting on this line of credit, the interest rate is variable. The interest rate is based off the performance of the HELOC or the balance in the HELOC at the end of the month or at the start of the next month, which means the interest rate owed for month two is based off a new balance of $278,548. Can we just agree that it's $1,825 in month one, but in month two, it would not be $1,825. It would be something less than that. I won't say it's less than $1,800. All I'm saying is the interest owed on this line of credit drops as the balance on the line of credit changes. Why is that important? Well, in this particular example, I am not going to change that $1,825, meaning I'm going to keep that interest-only payment the same for the life of this example, which means this is the worst case scenario. And the other piece that I wanted to throw in that, it's because that 1825 is going to change, is going to fluctuate. And what happens if the interest rate changes? Right now, this is based off 7.625%. I don't show the interest rate changing either. So to compensate for the change in the interest rate, I am keeping the original interest amount through the life of this example. And I am confident that I'm providing the worst case scenario, meaning any other version of this, it just makes the numbers better. So with that being said, we're sitting here at month one. And again, we just followed the first step, and that was dropping the income into the line of credit, paying bills from the line of credit, and that cash flow ending up dropping the balance in month one. So what does this look like over, I'll call it a succession of months? And again, we started with a line of credit of about $284,000. As we jump through the months, by the end of month three, the new balance on the line of credit would be somewhere around $267,000. And again, I am basing this performance off the same interest throughout. But can we agree that there would be a difference of interest owed on a balance that is almost $20,000 less? She's making considerable headway. And in addition, if anything happens, she's got leverage sitting in her line of credit ready to go to work. meaning there's $16,000 by the end of 3 months. There's $16,000 at the end of 3 months that if she needed to fix a car, pay a bill, wanted to take a trip, she has leverage available sitting inside of this line of credit that she could access. It is accessible to her by debit card. And then you run this through for the remaining few months. We're sitting at somewhere around 251,000 after 6 months. Again, 284 is where I started. 251 is where I'm sitting at the end of 6 months. In 6 months, we've knocked off $30,000 on this line of credit. So what does this look like over time? And this is straight out of a HELOC calculator. This is not something that I created. The input for this line of credit being the original balance of $284,000, the cash flow of $54.52 is what's driving the balance on this line of credit down. And it's going to take how long? It's going to take about 5 years. Remember, her goal was to have this paid off in 4 years. Well, based off my math, I think it's going to take somewhere around 5, and that's assuming that she's not using any of this leverage in here throughout this 5-year period. If she needs a dollar amount to go do something, she has it accessible to her, but that is going to change this number. So if we just are focused on what her goal was, which was to pay off this home in 4 years, we can get it done in 5, about 60 months. But then what? Home's paid off in 60 months. That's 5 years. She started this when she was 55. She's now 60. She's 5 years older. Now what? Well, I've got an empty line of credit at the end of 5 years, and my line of credit has a 10-year draw, so I still have 5 years left. So I've got a lot of room to play with. I've got, matter of fact, $284,000 to play with. What could I do with this $284,000? Well, her objective is to put that money to work inside of a SKIA. She's got a 401k with her employer. I want to say she's also got a self-directed IRA that owns a few properties. So she's got some other things. She would like some supplemental income. Once we've lifted the weight of the burden of this property, and just so we're clear, I think in the original opening of today's live, we talked about $158,000 in 30 months. Well, if you go to 30 months, that's where we get this from. She would have eliminated about $150,000 of the balance on this line of credit in a 30-month period. But it's still going to take another 20 months after that to be able to pay it off. But let's say, okay, it's paid off. It's 5 months later. I'm now 60 years of age. What am I doing at age 60? Well, I'm going to put this money to work. I'm going to take $200,000 out of this line of credit, get it compounding. And as a matter of fact, I know I'm 60 years of age. I know I'm older. And so I need to get more money compounding as quickly as possible. I've got $54.52 in cash flow. Can I take $3,000, which is $36,000 a year? Can I take $3,000 out of that $54.52 and put that money to work, as well as leverage $200,000 out of the $284,000 that I have available and get it compounding? You sure can. And what does that look like in 5 years? So that would be an additional $34,000 on top of all of your other retirement-based products. That's a decent amount of supplemental income, wouldn't you say? 34 grand. My question to her was, notice though, we didn't start compounding till age 60. Don't you consider that to be a little bit too late? And there were some pieces in this scenario that I didn't add, meaning when she started this process, she has income and she had savings. She had about $50,000 sitting in savings. This is void of any of that savings. So my point is there's some other pieces to this puzzle that can be applied. So one of them was this. My question to her was, what if we applied that $50,000 in savings? Okay. What if we applied that $50,000 in savings to the balance of the line of credit? What do I mean? Okay, we got a first position home equity line of credit of $284,000. We've got $50,000 sitting in savings doing nothing. What if we just moved the $50,000 that's in savings, moved it to the balance on the line of credit, not to use, just moved it to the balance of the line of credit to allow it to sit. So in month one, the balance is not 284, it's 234. And so how long now would it take to pay off 234,000 using this cash flow of 5452? It's the same cash flow. Well, now instead of it taking 5 years, it only took 4. That was her goal. Hey, I want to be able to pay off this line of credit in 4 years. Guess what? Ta-da, you just did it. But you're still 4 years older. Again, 55, 4 years older. I'm now 59. So I'm not 60, but I'm now 59. Could I then put this money to work? So what does that look like? And one of the things I did was, because I didn't want to use up all of her savings, I also wanted to be conscious of how much of the cash flow I was using. So in this case, instead of doing $36,000 a year, which is $3,000 a month, what if it was 2? Same lump sum though. Okay, that's $33,000. Is it comparable to what was before? What was the dollar amount before? $34,000. So $34,000, if we allow this to compound for 5 years and put $200,000 in and additional $1,000 in cash flow, knowing that I got to pay off this line of credit over that period of time as well. Okay. Or if we started a little bit sooner, we're sitting at somewhere around $33,000. Is that better? Well, this was my argument. Here's what we don't know about waiting 5 years to start putting your money in a position to where it can work for you. What are we talking about? What is this? This is a life insurance-based product designed to do what? It's designed to help you generate and build cash value, which ultimately you can leverage and use as income when you see fit. Which means this life insurance-based product is based upon what? It's based upon your age. It's based upon your health. It's based upon, meaning you have to qualify for a product like this. Will it be a little bit more challenging qualifying for a product like this at 59 versus 55? We don't know. But why take the chance? Again, she's got great cash flow. So what would it look like if we just simply put some of that cash flow to work earlier? Meaning we still get the same $284,000 in a line of credit, but instead of 5452, we take 2,000 of this cash flow and get it compounding. And that 3452 we use to pay off this line of credit. Notice the difference in time. The first example was 5 years. Second example was 4 years. If we use only the 3452 to pay off this home, and again, her objective was to pay it off in 4 years, it's going to take 120 months. 120 months is 10 years. She has a 10-year draw. So it's going to take the length of the draw period to be able to pay off this home.
Yeah, but what does she get at the end of it?
And that's the part. It's once you get beyond do you feel comfortable with that? Like, do you feel comfortable with what I thought was going to take me 4 years is now taking me 10 years? I get it. It may feel a certain way, but what's the goal? The goal is income. The goal is freedom. The goal is retirement. So in order to be able to accomplish those goals, what does that look like? And just so you understand what I did here, at the start, because she wasn't using her savings, instead of sitting the savings on the line of credit, which I could have, I said, what if you take that savings dollar amount and get it compounding along with $2,000 a month out of your cash flow? What does that look like? I'm going to say this still isn't much better, but it's better than the original dollar amount. It's about $5,000 a month different. I'm sorry, $5,000 a year different. So it's about 38 grand versus 35 grand. And again, you started a lot sooner. What's not in this equation? Notice if we're still paying down or paying off the line of credit, isn't there more available that you can actually put here? And here's the thing. I didn't even want to go down this path. I just wanted to provide these 3 scenarios. There's infinite number of scenarios that may work. The piece that I want to connect you to is this, the difference in time. We don't talk enough about compound cycles. At age, I don't know, and it doesn't matter whether you're 55 or 35. We only have a certain number of compound cycles. And so if the goal is freedom, How do you make the most use out of those compound cycles that we have? The way we do that is by putting money to work as quickly as possible. So when we talk about these three scenarios, it doesn't matter which one to me. What matters is being conscious of the compound cycles that we have and making sure our money is being put in position to work for us and starting that process as quickly as possible. Because the earlier you start, the more you have available. And the more room you create in your line of credit, the more that room can now be added into this process to get compounding for you. But it's all about getting started. And which kind of goes back to her original question of, and if you want to go back to the half, I think we can here. And it goes back to what's the goal? Because in most cases, what you say your goal is, and when you start peeling back the layers and what your goal actually is, might look a little bit different. Meaning, hey, I want to pay off my home. Once I've paid off my home, I want to pay off some debt. Once I pay off the debt, hey, I want to start working on retirement. It's very linear in most cases. But the truth is, this process, there's nothing linear about it. Because when you take into consideration compound cycles, at age 55, this is basically saying, unless she wants to work beyond the age of 70, at age 55, she's got about 3 good compound cycles left. So wouldn't it make the most sense to get these 3 compound cycles functioning as fast as possible so that you can accomplish the largest amount available to you using the cash flow you have? And I wasn't really taking many risks doing this example. She's got great cash flow. Could she have contributed more? Could we have gone beyond the $200,000 that I was contributing as a lump sum? All of those are absolutely viable actions that could be taken. But my point is, we have to be conscious of our compound cycles because we're running out of them and we cannot get them back. So getting money compounding as quickly as possible matters. So the truth is, this is reality for most of us. Oh, let me get it right there. Meaning, this path is not linear. It may start with paying off a home or getting that home in a position to where it's a first position home equity line of credit, but there are many other twists and turns to hit the actual goal, which is freedom. And as opportunities present themselves, the objective is to be flexible enough with your liquidity so that you can take advantage of these actions. And this is where it kind of bleeds into the conversation we were having Saturday. There's a lot going on in the market. There's a lot of volatility happening with our current retirement accounts. How much control do you have over any of it? None. So the best thing we can do is we're trying to figure out what the goal is and how we're going to accomplish that goal. Understand where your leverage is located, because it's possible you're living in the largest asset you will ever have, and there's an opportunity to put that leverage that you're living in to work. And I am not saying put it in the market. I'm saying get that money out of the market to be able to do other things. And even more, maybe you have some type of previous employer or Roth IRA or IRA in general that you can put in a better position to even help in this process. But the question is, where is your leverage? And do you have control over it? So again, as we talk about the goal, we have to be conscious of, then what? Just because you paid off your mortgage doesn't mean you've accomplished anything that's going to allow you to be able to retire. So when we talk about the then what, we have to be very clear on what that time frame is we can continue to work, what that time frame is we have to be able to put money to work for us, and when we hit this space, do we have the cash flow necessary to be able to sustain our lifestyle? Or do we end up 70 years old delivering pizza? Go ahead, sweetheart.
Some people can't read what's on the screen. Will you just go over what that is, that bar, the difference?
Right here?
Yep.
Yep, no problem. Give me just a minute. All right. So here, I'll make it bigger too. So the first step is, these are basically the years that you can either trade your time for money or you can put money to work. This is that period of time where you have leverage, and the key is to understand how your leverage can be working for you. So whether that's your 40-hour-a-week job, whether it's your side hustle, whether it's a previous employer retirement account, whether it's a current employer's retirement account. How about a properly designed cash value life insurance based product? Like, regardless of what it is, where is your leverage located?
Because again, in most cases, it's our home. Where's your leverage located and how can you put this leverage to work? Because we're running out of time. Because this is where that leverage now needs to support us. This is where that leverage now needs to bridge the gap between what Social Security won't do, whether it's here or not, or what my pension plan will or won't do, or what my 401k can or cannot accomplish. This is that period of time where we're now going to use this leverage that we've been putting to work over this. Oh, I guess I'll do it here. Putting to work over this period of time. Now we're going to use that leverage to now help sustain our lifestyle. So so it's basically the years you can work compared to the years you cannot. That's all this is saying. I think that's it. Yep. So for those of you who I've not met with, here's your opportunity to go ahead, sweetheart.
You can't see it.
There we go. Can you see
Thanks. Yeah. Now we can see it.
So here's your opportunity to go to selfdirected.info/live and go grab your workbook to be able to understand what your numbers are. Because it's very difficult for us to be able to have a conversation if you don't know where you currently are. And let's be truthful. You don't need this. Meaning you don't need our sheet to have a discussion with me. You don't. What I need from you, though, is your ability to understand your numbers. So as long as you understand your numbers, we can meet. Otherwise, go grab this sheet, put in your income, your assets, your debts, your expenses, understand what your cash flow is currently, and then come prepared and let's talk about what the next actions are. And again, it's selfdirected.info/live, and you can also go there to also book time on my calendar, selfdirected.info.
I wanted to just jump in because you said you just need to know your numbers. Here is the shocking truth. The majority of people who think that they knew their numbers did not.
Right.
You make a lot of us. We all make a lot of assumptions, and it's more like convenient assumptions, right? So it's not like people are intentionally trying to mislead their numbers or mislead you or misrepresent their numbers. It's just that we sometimes are not aware of what it is. Some people have more cash flow than they thought and can do more damage, right? In terms of crushing debt. But I just wanted to jump in here because you do this a lot. You end up having a conversation with people, especially a couple who think that they have an idea, but the truth is they really do not know. Sometimes they're calculating extra payments as out of their cash flow. What are some of the other mistakes that people do when they are trying to get their numbers together without using the sheet? Because using the sheet at minimum helps you identify where some of those mistakes happen, right?
One of my favorite red flags is when someone says, I'm kind of doing velocity banking. And here's what that usually means. Usually that means I am paying some expenses on credit card. Right? Because we got Netflix. There are some expenses that we can pay by credit card with no problem. So what they're saying is, hey, I got this 0% card and I'm paying these bills from this card. So I'm kind of doing velocity banking already. But here's what usually happens. In the expenses tab, they have the Netflix bill for $14.96 a month. But then in the debts tab, they have this credit card that included in that payment in that credit card is that same Netflix bill.
Right.
So if I'm paying for Netflix by this credit card, then I should zero that Netflix out I want to account for it. I want to know that it's there, but make it zero in the expenses tab because it's already showing in the credit card tab. So that way you're not double counting. So my point is, I see a lot of double counting. Like I'll see the mortgage sitting in the assets tab because it is a mortgage. I mean, it is an asset. But then over in the debts tab, I will see the mortgage payment there as well. Which means 9 times out of 10, we are double counting the mortgage. So I think that's one of the biggest pieces is the double counting piece. And again, it usually starts with, I'm kind of doing velocity banking. Because if you're kind of doing it, you're probably not. Or the other one is, I have multiple debt tools.
Oh, yes, yes. And maybe bring back up the debt tools so that you can go through that, because we do have some new viewers, and maybe we do need to go back over what debt tools are. We skip over what velocity banking is and kind of the principles because we've been talking about it for so long. But for the new people who have joined us, I think it is important because this is where some of those the misconceptions come along with how to create your strategy. Like, I don't need to get on a call with Donnell. Why would I need to do that? Well, one, it's free. Okay. So why wouldn't you?
Right.
Just get on there. I don't know of another person on YouTube or out here in the streets who are talking about this, who are offering free services. We don't have coaching. We don't have a course to sell. It's just because we know that this strategy works, and the more gatekeeping that happens, the less help people get. Come get the help. Come get the strategy. At minimum, some people just want to join a Zoom call just to be able to say, Donnell, look what I did. Is it good? I love being able to have that confirmation, or for him to be able to go, okay, here's what you did wrong. Here's where you could improve this, and here's where you could get even better results. Or how are you thinking about, or how you're thinking about it? Maybe explain that to me so then I could try to peel back this like barrier between you and really implementing this strategy, such as multiple debt tools, right?
Right. So I pulled up the velocity banking process first, just to kind of go back through that, because you're right. And I did go over this, but I do move really fast. And the idea behind velocity banking is really this. Where does your cash flow live today? This little yellow dot is your cash flow. Where does it currently live today? Like, answer that question. When you make money, when your income comes into your checking account, where does it go? Right? I'm sorry, when you get paid, when you get your check, it goes, usually it's direct deposited into your checking account. Like, that's all of us. And then what usually happens is, from this point, that dollar amount goes out to pay a bill. The idea behind velocity banking is, what would it look like if you could get multiple uses out of $1? What do I mean? Well, if your income was coming into your checking account, and you were able to drive that income into some debt tool like a line of credit. There's a balance on this line of credit. In this case, it was $284K. Well, when you take your income and dump that, $10,000 onto that line of credit, the balance on the line of credit drops down to $274. And I get it. You still have to pay bills though. And when you pay bills, that same dollar that over the last several weeks has been keeping the balance on the line of credit lower, which means you've been accruing the least amount of interest. Why? Why do I say that? Because in a line of credit, interest accrues daily. So if income came in on the 1st, and that income dropped the balance from 284 down to 274 on the 1st, and I don't start paying bills to the 15th of the month, for these next 14 days, I'm accruing the least amount of interest possible. The goal is to allow that money to sit on that line of credit as long as I possibly can. So another strategy would be, if I can wait till the 30th of the month to pay my bills, for the last 29 days, I've been accruing the least amount of interest. But then as I pay bills from this line of credit, the balance on the line of credit creeps back up. And if I've got, I'm just making up a number, $6,000 worth of bills, that means the balance is now back to $280. But notice what happened. In 1 month, the balance on this line of credit went from 284 to 280, which means the interest that I was paying when it was 284 is less. So when I say multiple uses out of the same dollar, I put in one check, one paycheck, and it knocked down the interest on my line of credit, and it allowed me to pay my bills. I got multiple uses out of that same dollar, and one allowed me to accrue less interest, the other allowed me to pay an expense.
But if you have multiple debt tools, what happens?
Yep. If you have multiple debt tools, then what you're saying is, and let me just create one. What you're saying is, hey, this income is not just going here, it's also going here. And if the goal is to accrue the least amount of interest possible, if I'm spreading my income across multiple debt tools, then am I really achieving the maximum amount of reduced interest that I could be?
Wasn't it cash flow? You meant cash flow?
No, I'm saying when my cash flow is sitting on a debt tool, I'm accruing less interest.
Yeah, right.
That's the objective of putting the cash flow on the debt tool. If I'm splitting my cash flow amongst multiple debt tools, I'm missing an opportunity, because depending on what the interest rate is for each one of these vehicles, I could actually be hurting myself from an interest perspective. So the idea is driving all of your income through that one debt tool so you could accrue the least amount of interest and allow that cash flow to sit on that line of credit or whatever, that credit card, line of credit, whatever it is, to allow you to be able to accrue that least amount. And usually, again, when I hear people say, hey, I have multiple debt tools, what that usually tells me is, one, maybe the process or the strategy around velocity banking isn't 100% understood. Because if you have multiple debt tools, how is that really any different than income comes into your checking account and you just pay your normal bill?
Right. Yeah, it's just called paying bills. It's not called
Exactly.
velocity banking.
Right. So velocity banking is saying I'm using leverage. I'm using the velocity of my income to pay as little interest as possible. And the more the velocity of my income or my cash flow drops down the balance on this line of credit, I have more and more available to me to be able to use. And if I have multiple of them, and again, there are many different types. When we started velocity banking, we could not qualify for a mortgage. So we were using a credit card to be able to, I guess I can make that bigger. We were using a credit card as our debt tool. And in some cases, I was incurring, what do you call it? What's the transaction? I was incurring balance transfer fees as a result of using a credit card as my debt tool, meaning I would put all of my income onto my credit card. And in order to pay bills from my credit card, I was incurring transfer charges in doing so. But I had done the math on, hey, it mathematically made sense. I've never had a personal line of credit to use for velocity banking, but I do have a business line of credit. And lines of credit can also be used in a very similar fashion. A lot of times, these are vehicles where you can link them to a checking account as overdraft protection. So in most cases, you can't drive your income through and pay bills from. In most cases, you have to transfer the balance onto into your checking account and kind of use it from there. But it is absolutely a tool that can be used. For a home equity line of credit, there are many different types. And not every line of credit functions like the one that we referenced today, which is actually coming from First Lien HELOC, which functions specifically for velocity banking. Like in their promo, they actually design it for velocity banking with the sweep account. I think CMG has a sweep account. There are several different banks out there that offer them. But I like to tell people all the time, the line of credit we have came from Bank of America. And if I'm going to grade our Bank of America first position home equity line of credit, it's probably the worst. Because it doesn't have any of those bells and whistles that these other lines of credit out here have. But we still do just fine. Meaning it may take a few more buttons that have to be pushed or hoops that need to be jumped through. But the bottom line is it's still a viable vehicle to be able to get multiple uses out of the same dollar and accomplish our goal. I love this piece here because this is the piece, a self-directed 401k loan is how we jump-started velocity banking. It started with borrowing money from my own retirement account, not the company that I work for. I'm talking about the 401k that I have with my own personal business that I have control over. That loan that I took from my own 401k, I set the terms on the loan. I set the interest rate. I set the payback period. I said how it was going to be paid back. If I chose to pay it back bi-weekly this week, I could pay it back monthly next week or quarterly if I chose to. But my point is this helped jumpstart because it's almost like a consolidation loan. It allowed me to take a large sum, dump it into my checking or go address some debt, which allowed me to free up cash flow quickly so that I could pay back myself and also get multiple uses out of the same dollar. And for these, I leave these blank because there are things that I don't think of. And one specifically that I know works is the ability to leverage your stock portfolio. What do I mean? Well, there was a time where I had enough Amazon stock in Morgan Stanley. I don't anymore. When I had enough stock in Morgan Stanley to be able to borrow against it, and they would give me a loan that was at a very competitive rate. And that loan I could then leverage and use to go do velocity banking to be able to get multiple uses out of the same dollar. My point is there's crypto, There's people that are now able to leverage their crypto account to be able to use for other things. So my point is, there are many different types of debt tools, but understanding how each of them function and what are the steps required for you to be able to drive your income through to get multiple uses out of them is key. And I would be happy to kind of have that discussion with you, because it can get, I'll call it a little bit heavy. It can be a little bit daunting when you are having these discussions with banks. You're focused on getting a first position home equity line of credit, and they're trying to trick you into refinancing. Or you're focused on a first position home equity line of credit, and they only understand second position. So I understand that there's opportunity here. So if needed, please jump on my calendar and I'll be happy to discuss. Any questions, sweetheart?
Yeah, we have a couple that I think you could come over here for, but
Okay.
This one in particular, you can stay there. Nathan wants to know, in this example, is the interest payment on the HELOC is already included in the expenses?
Right. And how about this? In most examples, like if you go back through the library, in most examples, I never even bring this up. And here's why. If you're following the strategy, that payment won't matter. I wanted to identify this one because I just wanted to peel back the layers a little bit to help you understand that there is an interest payment. And in most cases, it could be a principal and interest payment or an interest-only payment. In her case, it was an interest-only payment. And even with the interest-only payment, as you contribute to, or not contribute, as your income goes into the line of credit and your cash flow sits on that line of credit, that interest-only payment changes on a daily basis, which is why I don't account for it, because it's consistently dropping. And we would never be able to keep up, because if we're following the strategy, we're getting multiple uses out of the same dollar, which allows us to pay it off quickly.
Do you have it pulled up on the browser?
Do I have
Her mortgage, you have it pulled up on the browser? No, the HELOC calculator.
Oh, I do not. I do not have the HELOC.
Oh, okay.
pulled
Got
up
it.
On the browser. I don't.
Okay. One thing that I do want to, I'm going to push back on this for just a second. We'll come right back to the example, but when you're talking about a debt tool, I think mixing leverage, where's your leverage, and what's a debt tool available are two different things.
It can be, absolutely.
Yeah. So like crypto, you can't put money back into it and use it like a line of credit.
No, but again, it depends on the exchange. You can't do anything directly with crypto unless you want to be taxed and penalized on it. So yes, but there are some exchanges out there that will allow you to borrow against, leverage against that crypto. They're going to charge you the interest rate. They're going to charge you a monthly payment, but it is a dollar amount that you can then take and do other things with as it relates to velocity banking. So I think we're both right.
The one piece that a lot of velocity banking conversations miss is where's your leverage?
Yes.
To be able to go and grab a big chunk of leverage, and it makes sense on the spread because whatever it's costing you
Yes.
to leverage and your gains, if you do the long math, right? Then you know if you're not willing to do the long math, you're not going to like it over here with us. But we win every time because the long math, it either maths or doesn't. That's just it. But what I wanted to bring up was the products that are masquerading out here as leverage. For instance, somebody in the chat had mentioned a HELOC, not a line of credit.
So can you? Yes. Is it as efficient as you think it is? No.
Do the long math. I always just like to do the PSA about the HELOCs, the HEAs, HEOs, whatever they're calling them. However it's packaged, there's somebody who is going, you don't have to have a HELOC to access your home's equity. I'm an influencer on social media. Follow me for more tips. You should not follow them. Matter of fact, you should go straight to whatever it is that they're pushing. Instead of the learn more and jumping in their funnel, go straight to that website, go all the way down to the bottom and scroll until you find the shareholder information, okay? When you pull up their brochure that they have to make public for their shareholders and how they represent the information and the stats around their clients and the money that they make, that's when you learn what your value is there. if they're talking about how much value they add to people and how much financial freedom they've helped people, and gosh, that's what the shareholders really want to hear about, right? Is how much money other people have saved from using them. They're not at all looking at how much money they're going to get from investing in this company, right? I mean, that makes sense. But when you look at, on average, how much they're making from a person, then you have to go back to the people in the front, the people who are, you don't have to have a HELOC in order to access your home equity, right? You have to go back to that person and then understand, do they even know what it is that they're talking about? Right. Do they even understand what this product is, or could they just care less because some company mailed them a check and in exchange for a video? That's where we are right now with social media.
Very true.
It's shocking to learn that when you have already entered in this agreement thinking that you're just accessing leverage, right? I mean, that's what the Stidham said to do, access leverage. Right? Right, Donnell? That's all you got to do. And you get into this situation, you're thinking to yourself, well, if I did the math right, then long term, I'll be able to pay this off, will you? If you don't even understand what the real terms are, because we are not talking about those equations. Right. We're not adding in the fact that when you leverage or find a tool that you can leverage, that your equity or a percentage of your equity is being tacked on, and that's what's compounding, and you're going to have to be able to do the math fast enough or have enough cash flow to buy that out and make it make sense. It's a payday loan. It's a title loan.
You end up buying 3 homes instead of 2.
Get your title back with Title Max. That's the one though, right? That's the reason why their commercial is what it is, because people weren't getting their titles back from title loans, right? People were getting their cars taken away because of these predatory companies. Do you not see what's coming? It's going to be get your mortgage back with this HEA. They're going to be marketing now that, hey, we're not the ones taking away people's houses. You get to get your house back with us. Give it a solid 10 years, and that will be normal language around this product because it's predatory. And right now, bigger companies, bigger corporations can make a nice amount of money by just going up and taking people's houses out from underneath them because you simply signed on the dotted line and gave them permission to do it. This is why it's really important to understand strategy, because they have one too. Everybody has a strategy. Everybody has some sort of leverage. If you aren't finding out where your leverage is, then you are probably someone else's leverage.
Ooh.
That's a bar.
It is.
That's the word. Okay, so going back to debt tools and where you have access to leverage. Your getting a self-directed 401k, absolutely. That's a no-brainer for anybody who owns their own business and doesn't have any full-time employees, right? What else do they need to have?
That's it. No full-time employees. Got to have own business. That could be any 1099 income, any LLC, any sole proprietorship, any S corp, any C corp.
Yep. And a HELOC. We've done this equation probably 200 times on this channel already with HELOCs. But we're going to put all of these stories and we're compiling them. We're in the process, and we've enlisted some help to compile them into more like an article form, a format where you can see what the factors are, find other case studies that are like you with the leverage that you have available to you, and break down leverage in a different way. But we have to, I go back to what you were talking about. We have to know the strategy. And there's far too many people out here who are looking for the do it for me. Right. Far too many people that are looking for, oh, thank God I don't have to think about any of this because I just get to sign here and that this person's going to do it for me. I think your consultation is the only time where somebody gets to jump in and you do it for them. You talk them through what it is. They have to take the action though, right? And that crippling anxiety around having the confidence to put all of your cash flow into a debt tool is, I think, what stops a lot of people.
It's heavy.
And maybe the one person who's been watching our live streams, they have the confidence. We hear this story more often than not. This could be like a hit single if we were to put out an album. It's called My Spouse is Crazy, okay, and wants to do something called velocity banking. Do we have some? Can we drop a beat on that? Okay. My spouse is crazy.
Keep going though. We've got a 3.5% mortgage interest rate, and they're trying to move us into a line of credit that's 8%. Like, make it make sense.
And drop the beat, okay? Because that's coming up on the next verse. We're going to also talk about why would we? Also, do you want a divorce? Do you want financial freedom or a divorce? Pick one, right? Pick a struggle, because we're
That's
not
a
on.
thumbnail, by the way.
Yeah, we're we are not on the same page, and I cannot tell you how many couples. So if this is you, you're not alone. You are not alone, and I mean really not alone. Like we could have an anthem just based off of the amount of people who are not on the same page. And it's because they're not on the same page, the conversation stops, right? What was it that made you keep, why didn't the conversation stop with us?
Well,
Come back over here. How about that?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah. Come back over here. Oh yeah. Come back over
now
here.
you're giving me a scene.
A what?
I don't know what it's called. Whatever, hit a button.
The transition.
The transition.
Okay. Oh yeah. Hold on. You got to run.
I'm not running.
No. And that's a new game, guys. He has to beat the transition back to the new area. Okay, here we go. Ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
So just remember, if you're on fire, stop, drop, and roll. One more time. Say it with me now.
Stop, drop, and roll. Do that. Do it like pro. Do that.
Yeah, you made it. Welcome back. Why didn't we stop? And we've got more questions, so I'll put it in there. But why didn't we stop with the conversations? Because we were arguing all the time. Like, I didn't get it. You didn't even have the patience really to explain it to me, because you were still trying to understand it and be able to articulate it, right?
Well, and I think I saw it as I had more work to do. So I couldn't get over the math. And I'm just understanding my nature. And that is, when I get it, I got it. It may take me a while to get it, but when I get it, I can break it down into bite-sized pieces so others can understand it. And so you not getting it, all that told me was I had more work to do and to better understand it. Because what forced me to keep going is the math does not lie. We were on the verge of paying for this house 2, if not 3 times, versus putting ourselves in a position to where we have leverage to be able to accomplish what freedom actually looks like. And so the piece that kept me going was, this math makes sense. I just need to do a better job of making it make sense to you.
Okay. Do you think, though, that okay, this could have gone two ways.
Many ways.
Yeah.
But you know what, though? One other piece I think you're forgetting is we couldn't qualify for a home. So
yeah, so I was also why are you doing this other thing?
I had to convince her to get a first position home equity line of credit, but I first had to convince you about velocity banking, because it was velocity banking that allowed us to be able to qualify for the home.
Right.
And so what made that easy was watching the credit score increase.
Right.
You cannot you can argue with me all day, but my credit score going from 504 to 680, you cannot argue with that.
Yeah. And then, so Bob, we'll fast forward my story, but here's the part where I hear couples. We'll just clip this out and as a gift. Let's talk about this part, because it could have been not that you had more work to do. It could have just been, this chick is dense. Okay. She is not getting it. She doesn't want to get it.
That would go over well.
But you could have still decided that and moved forward, such as, oh, she's never going to come around, or I'm never going to be able to have, so I'm just not going to continue to have this conversation with her. Or you could have said, I don't want to get a divorce and for us to keep arguing about this. So you know what? Pick a struggle. Right. I'm just going to back off, right, and I'm just not going to do this strategy if it means upsetting, what we got going on over here.
That is true.
But you didn't. And I think other people need to hear that, because they are at home right now. They might be watching, their partners in the other room. They might be watching in secret. We knew some people who are watching our show in secret who could not tell their partner, because every time they would even talk about it, they would just be like, don't talk to me about that velocity banking stuff. I don't want to hear it. And here's why I'm bringing this up. If you want to win, if you truly desire to have something different, then you have to be willing to open your mind to not how you get there, but the fact that you will get there. If you're so caught up in that it needs to look traditional, but you are missing the part that nobody is benefiting from these traditional systems, right, and haven't been. You've been sold a bill of goods. And if you've been using traditional systems, been trying to implement them in your own family and financial situation and not seeing results, maybe it's because they don't work. And they're not going to just simply because you put yourself on more of a budget or you Dave Ramsey the mess out of your whole financial strategy. There are many people who've gone through all of the baby steps, and then they ask the question, and then what? And by then it was too late. Too late. And the amount of confidence that you have to have in your partner, right? It's a confidence, it's a trust, it's a privilege to have that with someone.
Oh, it's all of those things. And, I think one of the other drivers for me was understanding that I was not benefiting from being where we are. Like, there's so much conditioning here that I think a lot of what we gloss over, because this isn't the live stream for deciding and killing off a decision, and like all of the foundation, the around
mindset stuff
around personal development that it required for us to get here.
Right.
Because I think that's its own channel.
Right.
Because we have to first focus on the work that I did to get to where I was, the work that you did to get to where you are, and then we as a couple have to get to a different place as well. And it took a few funerals, for that to happen.
Yeah.
So I think it's just, there's so much little time for us to be able to kind of break that piece down, but it is understanding, hey, is there a goal? Yes, there's a goal. Or we are both aligned on this goal. Yeah, we're aligned on the goal, but maybe we don't know how to get there. So I'm going to do my homework to figure out a path. You're doing your homework to figure out your path. And let's come together to identify what we can do together to be able to hit that goal. And there are going to be moments that we don't agree on what that looks like. We just have to work through that.
Well, one of those things is in Gabo's question. And I'm going to bring this up because it's kind of a loaded question, and it's very buried in that same idea of trust and having a strategy and understanding a strategy, right? Okay. So he was asking about, because he was talking about Avon. Mm-hmm. Yep. And he was saying, don't you guys have an Avon card? Didn't you use Avon to further leverage the equity in your home? And I was saying, yes, but in the beginning, we got a large amount, it was like 100K or whatever, 0%. We were able to turn that around and use that we were hard money lenders, just lending it out and getting pretty high returns on that amount of money. That makes sense. Anybody can make sense of that. But what wouldn't make sense to most people is to get another $100,000 in a line of credit. They would have stopped right there and said, I don't care if it's 0%. I don't want it. Why would I want to do that? And that was where I was. Every time you turned around the corner and you were like, look what we've got. And you would go, leverage. And I would say, that's not leverage, that's debt. Why do you keep calling it that? Okay, I get that you're like in a bromance with leverage and strategies right now, but when you say the word to me, and when you when you map it all out for me, no matter how you map it out, it just sounds like debt.
Bad debt.
Bad. It just sounds like, why are you doing this to us?
And
it sounds like it's giving, and now what this, it's giving, we're going to be in a lot of debt. You like debt. That's what it's giving. And it wasn't headed in the same direction I thought we were going, which was all of the boxes that I knew. I had been collecting them for years, right, guys? We collect these boxes that we want to check as adults.
conditioning.
Yeah. Yeah, I had collected those boxes for a long time. I had the Carlton Sheets, no down payment tapes. I had the tapes and the audio tapes and the VHS. Had all of that because in my mind, I was at some day, right? I was going to be able to leverage, but even in his course, and if you know, you know what I mean? Carlton Sheets, shout out to anybody who knows that. All they were talking about, every single real estate conference everywhere since him has only been talking about leverage. But you didn't give up, is the point. You didn't give up in talking to me about it. You didn't give up in your belief because you saw it, you couldn't unsee it, and you knew it was just a matter of time until I could see it.
Right.
And that's the part that I hope that others take away from is keep talking about it. Keep doing the math. Keep showing the math. Keep proving. And I think it was a proof because that's what I was. Keep proving. Keep being the proof for someone else. Be the proof for yourself. Be the proof for others. Because if we were the proof for you, then it's your turn. Each
Right.
one, teach one.
So you want me to?
Yep.
So I think it was at this stage where my objective was just to get leverage from everywhere. If you were offering it, I was taking it. It didn't matter what the amount was. I think for me, it was the less hoops I had to jump through, the better.
You're just loose out here with the leverage.
I'm just saying. And so as it relates to Avon is a real, I'm not going over with you because I could. Avon is a really nice product, but it's not what you think. Meaning, can you use Avon as a debt tool? You can't. You can't link it to a checking account. You can't use it for overdraft protection. The most you can do is transfer funds from it, use it, and then pay back the funds you've transferred and then transfer funds again. So it is a line of credit and it does function like a line of credit, but it's really just a big credit card. So how do you get cash out so that you can lend it out? It's a transfer. It's a transfer of cash from where it is currently sitting on the Avon card to a checking account, and then it's lending, which means it's just lending from the checking account. But here's the piece. How do banks make money? Banks make money by creating leverage, creating opportunities where you can create a spread against the money that you're using. And so that's all I do with Avon. Avon cannot be used for velocity banking. Avon will not be used to purchase a car or it will not. Avon is used to create a spread because it's going to cost me to use the funds. So if it's going to cost me to use the funds when I lend them out, I want to make sure I'm making the difference between the cost to me and what it is I'm getting from you. So it's all about creating the spread. So people talk about becoming your own bank, but this is where you actually get to put becoming your own bank into practice. Go ahead.
Okay, one more thing. And it's the people who we lend, listen up, the people who we are lending money to could have their own Avon card. They could have their own access to these same type of systems, but they don't do it. And if you're sitting there and you have not taken action towards velocity banking, towards infinite banking, to implement any of these 5 strategies that we have taught here on this channel, if you are still with your feet stuck in the mud, then again, I have to go back to, if you are not leveraging your leverage for somebody else is leveraging you.
That's it.
Because how many times have you lent out the same money over and over, even to the same people, right? And I get that maybe they need more than that. So we're just one of many investors. But I think that sometimes we get overwhelmed with information. We go, I don't need to learn that. But this is one thing that you could apply to everything in your life, really. But matter of fact, one of the biggest hacks I think that came out of last year was when you said, why don't you do velocity banking with your time? I was feeling like overwhelmed, like, where am I going to come up with the time? And he was like, well, it's just what I'm saying here is really just like velocity banking, but with time. And it never even occurred to me. I think it's not even the Pomodoro method or anything like that. It was a totally different way of thinking about how I was utilizing my time. And so now my idle moments became cash flow, right? And that stacked up in a different way. And I just started thinking about things in a different way. That was super powerful to me. So talking about the arbitrage, talking about not even just utilizing your leverage in a different way, right. Utilizing your base, what you have access to, right? Pays and the spread, how banks make their money. Peaky was saying that the Pace Morby group peeps call this gator lending. And it's interesting that he would bring this up because he said he had been on Pace Morby calls. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, you probably saw our son Justin in the chat. He's in the chat on Pace Morby calls. And you've talked to so many of Pace Morby's community members, right?
I was talking with a couple today, and they asked, man, you've probably been talking to a lot of Pace Morby people. And I said, well, in February, there's 28 days. And I want to say I probably talked to 29 Pace Morby people. So it was a lot. It was absolutely a lot of individuals that I talked to. And here's what I love about the Pace Morby, I'll call it community. They are so eager for information. And they are so open to different approaches to being able to achieve wealth. And so it is absolutely a game changer for groups like that. I think that's what we are. It's a similar community as what we're trying to, I'll call it, cultivate here. It's just they aren't 6-hour lives. Like they sit on these Zoom calls for the longest amount of time.
Yeah, we thought ours were long.
Right. And I stopped apologizing to their community because I'll share with them videos or lives that we've done. And I say, hey, I apologize. I know it's 2.5 hours or whatnot, but it took that amount of time to get the message out. And it was like 2.5 hours. That's nothing. That's dinner time for me. So it's not a big deal. So.
Well, Jesus was saying velocity banking plus infinite banking plus real estate winning at all times. Can you imagine if Pace Morby community was able to get their hands on velocity banking? Because sometimes it feels like certain communities, they only talk about this. It's a this or that right. conversation. And I think that's where a lot of people have been missing out. They're like, oh, we don't talk about that over here. Why not?
Right.
Why not?
Right. They all talk, and
we'll come talk about it for free.
But it's not. Let's add one more piece. It's that self-directed retirement account
right.
plus velocity banking plus infinite banking plus real estate plus a first position home equity line of credit. Like it's all of them. They all go together.
Which is why we could come up with the concept of reverse velocity banking.
That's it.
Because now you've got a machine that feeds itself, and it doesn't matter if you made another dollar or not, because once you've fed this machine and you've got it oiled up, anything you do feed into it just grows the machine, but it already grows and functions on its own. Why aren't more people talking about this? Unfortunately, a lot of times, I probably shouldn't say it. I'm going to say it anyway, because I'm going to say it. A lot of times it's because they don't benefit.
Who benefits?
And we, as a community, we have to, regardless of if, and I know I can hear Veronica right now, run the banner. I'm doing it, Veronica. We have to jump out here and share the wealth of knowledge with other people, with each other. We have to do that. It doesn't matter if you feel like, oh, I didn't go to school for this. Have you used it? Have you proven that it works? Then let's talk about it. Then go out and tell somebody else that it exists and go be the proof for that person so that they can level up. We have to do this. Otherwise, we're just sitting here like sheep, waiting for it to find out which wolf came in the middle of the night, stock market, and who's not going to make it.
Right.
Who didn't make it tonight because of what happened on Wall Street? Who didn't make it tonight because of what happened with a game that the ultra rich could play, and they're not hurting after this. Maybe ouch a little bit, paper cuts, right? But they're not impacted in the same way that the majority of Americans are impacted.
And that's where that was the whole point in jumping out here on Saturday, was just don't get fooled, because there's a lot of fluctuation happening in the market. Don't get fooled, though. Who benefits? Like, peel back the layers on who benefits from creating turmoil, causing a market to crash, and then erasing it, going, oops, my bad, I'm sorry, just so that the market could recover. Who benefits from that? Because it's not us. So there's things that we can control. What can we control? We control where our leverage is located, how to access that leverage, and how to put that leverage in a position to where we can reduce that risk, so that you can't just turn on and turn off the market and now all of a sudden I've lost 30% out of my retirement. So it's understanding where your leverage is located and how to use it. And leverage is located everywhere.
Everywhere.
To include your time. I think that was a perfect point. Because maybe you can't. I was talking to a couple today who's renting. So a first position home equity line of credit isn't in the cards today. But where are those areas of leverage located? Like, have you made the proper use of your time to put your cash flow in a better position so that you can be able to qualify for things like this? So you're absolutely correct.
That's right. So the
loose with the leverage. Yeah, she was wrong for that. Loose with the leverage.
So really what we're talking about here, friends, is if you want to explore more avenues for leverage, you got to get a little loose to get the leverage. All right, loose with your mindset. And you've got to be more open-minded.
Wide open.
Wide open. That's right. To let in more information to see where these opportunities may be. You know what I mean? Let your guard down a little bit and
breathe in, breathe out.
I think we know where we could go with this, and we've got to abort this mission. Okay. Because we like to have fun in real life. We can't do that on this session. Okay. Let's and
scene.
Yeah. Okay. So Roger, he says, she's talking about me out. I'm actually not talking directly about you. I'm really talking about, but thank you for sharing that you are also in this group.
Right.
I was in the group. I was captain of the team of get out of here with that. Where's my button? Yeah. Get out of here with all that and come back when you've got a plan to check all these boxes that I collected.
Right.
All my adulting boxes. Like, this is what I went to school. We did all of the things and I excelled at all of these things so that I could check these boxes with perfection. What are you talking about? It doesn't make sense. Make it make sense. So if you're in that same category of thinking and you're going, I'm checking all these boxes and I want to do it perfectly. When you start to check off the box of I paid off the mortgage in 4 years. We had one lady, she was one of our neighbors. Okay. She's one of our neighbors and that's it.
Reel it back in.
I did. She called us up and she was like, how are you guys affording all of these vehicles in front of your house? How? Like, the neighbors think I'm selling dope, right? It was, how are you doing this? Because we had all these, all of our kids were turning driving age and they were doing different things. They all needed a vehicle. They're so close together. But they were like, why aren't your kids having to share a vehicle like normal people? How can you guys be able to do this? And I thought, instead of just telling her, it's none of your business, Karen. Okay? Bruh. Get out of my business. I walked her through where our leverage is and how we've become our own bank. And so therefore we could pretty much finance our own vehicles and be able to put them on the road so that they could get to school, they could get to their jobs or wherever they were going, right? And we didn't have to inconvenience everyone. And at the time I had stopped driving too. So I haven't driven for more than a handful of years now. And so I needed more people to be available to take me somewhere, right? So it was nosy people. She was nosy. Nosy people who wanted to shame us or wanted to judge us, who actually ended up learning something. And I appreciate the opportunity in that too. So could be that the person who's sitting right next to you, bless her or him, who might just be judgy, might just be having a little financial Karenism, you know?
Financial Karenism. That's a shirt.
Yeah.
That's a shirt.
Yeah. Could be suffering from that. Could be suffering and just need to be able to get all the judging out and then let it come out. What's the judging? What is it that you want to know? And what is it that you're thinking is my ulterior motive, right?
Well, and I think that's hopefully what people take from this channel is it's a safe space to have these types of conversations, because where else can you have them? Because I think a large part of getting the family on board or getting a spouse on board, one gentleman that I was speaking with, because you had mentioned this, I want to say a couple of lives ago, and it was me. I offered my assistance in this process to get on a Zoom with him on a Saturday, have his wife and her friends bring all the wine they want to drink, and let them pepper me with why this is such a bad idea.
Yeah,
it's the circles that we run in. We only know what we know based off the people that we're around. We're the sum of the total of the people that we are associate with, and so sometimes it's peeling back the layers on why I believe what I believe, who is actually benefiting from the direction that I'm headed. And then let's elevate. What's the goal? Because I guarantee you, there's not one person in that group that wants to be broke for the rest of their life. There's not one person in that group that wants to be delivering pizzas at age 72. Like, no one. And so let's understand where you are. Let's understand why you are where you are. Where it is it you want to go, and where's your leverage located, and how can we merge it? It has nothing to do with a velocity banking term or infinite banking. None of that. It's understanding where your leverage is located and how do you gain access to it so that you can accomplish this goal of getting multiple uses out of the same dollar.
Yep. And I know it sounds crazy. It sounded insane to the majority of the people that we knew, even in our families, whatnot. But what's sad is all of those people, and it could have been me too, could have been me. All of those people who wanted to judge and decide, right? They decided a long time ago that this wasn't for them, that they weren't willing to take the risk in applying or learning. How about this? They weren't willing to take a risk in learning. That's really what they were saying. That's really what I was saying. Because what was the harm in learning? Okay, they weren't willing to take the risk in learning because there was some sort of risk for them in what it is that they believed in. They believed in some other kind of strategy. They believed that they were going to get there a different way. Or maybe they didn't have the solution. And it just seemed like, I don't believe I could find that solution on YouTube. I don't believe I could find that solution in a Facebook group.
Most of, if not all of this ends up being rooted in fear, right? So if it's a belief system, it's I am afraid of whatever that future occurrence might be, even though I don't understand it. And it's I'm telling you, this is not a financial discussion. This is about mindset. This is about belief systems. This is about conditioning. This is about that younger version of you that's actually in control when you think it's you. Like, there are so many layers here that really have nothing to do about math, because I can show you the difference in the math. But what I can't change is the conditioning that you watched your dad, you watched your mom struggle, and you swore you would never do these things. So these actions you've taken are so that you have made sure that those things didn't happen. And now some guy on YouTube is going to tell you to leverage your home, use debt. That math doesn't math.
Yeah. And also get out of here with that.
Right,
because
right.
Who is this guy?
Right. So there's so many layers to this, and it won't happen in an hour.
Yeah. However, it can happen in an hour. And I think that's what
I'm talking about the conditioning.
Yeah, but
shift.
what I'm talking about is this 45-minute call that's completely free, and in that 45 minutes for you to go from how I don't believe this can be done to
Holy crap.
how did you do that? And then you go, okay, go watch these. I'm going to break it down in these videos. Bring your spouse on board, right? I'm going to break it down in these case study videos just so you can see. Now you go learn and then come back. So then they come back and they go, and you know what happens is the people who didn't believe the most, they're so skeptical. They have really good questions too. That's the part, I think that's your favorite part.
Man, there are so many, a lot of times because I meet over Zoom, a lot of times people will have filters on and, background filters that blur out. And so if there's a spouse that just like, my husband's on some nonsense or my wife is on some nonsense and they ask me to be here and I'm just here, they're not even on camera or they're blurred out somewhere, but they're making comments from time to time like, well, explain this from the background. And then when I explain it, you can just feel them getting closer and closer to the camera. Like all of a sudden now they're coming into view and now they move their spouse out of the way and now they're the one sitting in front of the camera because we do have questions. And usually if you walk into a bank with your financial questions, what is a bank going to do? You think the bank is going to, because they're the subject matter experts, they're going to steer you in the proper direction. Until you learn, the bank is just Walmart. They are going to steer you to the product that is on sale for today.
That's right.
So if that's the product on
the
sale,
soup of the day.
Exactly. They are going to steer you to that product. It has nothing to do with the question that you ask. They're going to take the question that you ask and not answer the question. They're going to steer you towards the solution they want you to take from them. Once you learn that, then you can now, it's almost a different confidence walking into it. You're walking into Walmart. They're going to try to sell you something, but you've armed yourself with the information to look beyond that. And so it's arming people with the skill set to be able to go have those conversations and guard against those things that we've been conditioned to believe have our back, because they don't care about us. They do not care about you. They want to sell you something.
And isn't that the majority of the spouses who are non-believers in velocity banking? Like it's a thing you need to believe in math, right? But they don't believe that this could be the thing. And so sometimes the most powerful questions come out of that because the person who's trying to learn, they may not even be like the math, the strengths and weaknesses, right? Their strengths may not be math in that relationship, but yet they're the ones trying to learn, right? They want to contribute and fix the problem. So the person who feels like they have the math strength, the power to make those types of decisions, or they have more weight in those decisions, they're like, what are you doing over here in the math section? Like, get over here, come back and let me handle it. Don't do this. I get it. You found like a new math coloring book over here with the Stidhams, but don't get your crayons all out and start coloring on these pages because you're going to get your little heart broken when I come in here and do the big boy or the big girl math on the whole thing, right? I mean, that's pretty much it. So then they get on the call with you, and sometimes they go, I do not believe that this is the best thing for us, and I need you to prove it that this is the best thing. So well, give me your numbers, right? Let's start with your numbers. Let's start with your numbers and your goal. Sometimes they're so caught up in the math, they don't even have a goal. So once they have to sit there and think about their goal, then they have to start wondering, have I been doing the math towards my goal, right? That's a powerful question. And that's pretty like to me, that is probably the biggest gift that you give people, is to tie them. Your mindset, your line of thinking, is it in line with your goal? Because if you don't know what road if you don't know where you're going, any road can take you there, right? The other part is sometimes they're right. Sometimes the person who did not believe that this was a good thing, they are absolutely right. And you end up, it's a situation where they feel like maybe you even betrayed them a little bit, right?
I mean, but be specific. It's spouse X that wants to do velocity banking or wants a first position home equity line of
Right.
credit.
Especially the first position. Yeah.
Right. And then the spouse who is skeptical or does not agree sits down. And when I ask, what's the goal? What's your cash flow? What are your numbers? And they provide all of that. It may be that you don't have the cash flow, the discipline, understanding of the strategy for this to work. So she's absolutely correct. But now that we've identified the goal, though, now how do we need to restructure this so that you guys can do something that's aligned with what both of you can actually accomplish?
Yeah. Okay. So Jared, he's got some proof here. Paid off a $4,500 loan. It was $50 a month interest with 2.5 years left. Right now, my HELOC is at 0. I have the full 45K. Oh, 45K. Okay. That loan is paid off. That was like 2 months ago. Psh, where's our... Well done. Well done. And we need more people to jump out as proof, because there's another piece to this. The other piece is, then what?
Right.
Then what? Right. If you're waiting for the 5 years for all of your debt to be cleared before you jump in, maybe that's what we need to talk about next, is compound cycles, and really start talking about what that looks like.
Then what?
Maybe it's not even you. Maybe it's you leveraging your kids. Maybe it's finding other points of leverage so that you can still reach the goal. It's this and that, right? This and that, not this or that. And that's what we really like to explore in the conversations that he has daily, all day, every day. Okay, Carlos says, how soon can I start doing a relock my 3rd year?
Okay, so let me give the backstory for those who may not understand what Carlos is asking. So Carlos has a leveraged IUL. And I don't remember his numbers, but I'll make up some. So let's say in year 1, he put in or his monthly premium into his leveraged IUL is $1,000 a month. So that's $12,000 a year. His question is this relock thing. Well, relock is a made up term. Retirement equity line of credit is what it stands for. I think it's the perfect term, but it is absolutely a made up term. What does that mean? Well, inside of a properly structured leveraged IUL, starting at year 3, everything that he put in year 1 will get added to year 3. So if he's doing $1,000 a month, which is $12,000 a year, you put $12,000 in year 1, functions like any IUL, not really special. You put in $12,000 in year 2, that's 24 grand total. At the start of year 3, everything he put in year 1 gets added to year 3, which means during year 3, he's only put in 3 times 12, 36,000, but the life insurance companies put in 12, that's 48 grand working for him. So that relock, that leverage being added to his policy, in most cases starts at year 3. There are some scenarios where it may start sooner. There are some scenarios where it may start later. It really is dependent upon have you fully funded your policy for the last 3 years, and is your policy max funded? But ultimately it is that 3-year mark, and it's the start of the 3rd year. So it's really the end of the 2nd year, starting the 3rd year. We add that leverage, so that leverage is now performing during the 3rd year. Just so we're clear.
Okay, and Delonda, welcome to our stream, by the way. I haven't seen you before, so welcome. Best places to get a first lien HELOC.
I get this a lot. We don't work with anyone specifically, but there are some consistent banks that just I end up either having conversations with or end up running into. Usually I start here. Depending on your state, the easiest thing to do would be to go to your favorite search engine, type in your zip code, and look for banks and credit unions at some radius around where you live. Why? Because a lot of these products are based on relationships. And so the best thing you can do is build a relationship with a bank and or a credit union close to you. But outside of that, and here's one more reason why I like to do that. I'm not a fan of taking the first offer provided to me. So I love it when there's a bank, like there's banks across the street from each other. So I will walk into a bank, ask for the terms and conditions that I need, take their offer and walk across the street to the next bank and share with them that, hey, this bank across the street said they do this. Can you beat it? So I think there's power in using your leverage as a consumer because they think you need them. But again, they're just Walmart. You can walk in any Walmart. So when you learn that you don't need them and you understand how to leverage them, the piece is, hey, now I want to pit these banks against each other to provide me the best opportunity. But some of the banks that we traditionally see are First Savings, PNC, First Lien HELOC, CMG, PenFed, Navy Fed, I hear, is back doing HELOCs again. So there's Bank of America is what we actually use. My point is there's a lot out there, and I wouldn't settle for the major banks. Sometimes there are mom and pop credit unions, and no disrespect to the word mom and pop, but there are these smaller credit unions that actually need the business and are offering better terms and conditions that you can use. If you're looking for lines of credit that have the automation, though, there's very few out there that actually have the sweep account and do all of the stuff and the things as it relates to velocity banking. So I don't know. I usually leave it as, doing the search, comparing banks, and then there are those I'll call it standard companies that we talk about, the PNCs and the first liens, because they have sweep accounts associated with them that function like velocity banking. So.
And also, again, it's what is your profile? Not everybody has the same variables in their equation. Right. So if what it is that you're working with and what it is that you have access to could build a machine that can get you going today versus waiting until all of the conditions are perfect and then getting started is much more powerful because you're able to leverage compound interest. And that's the most important part, is that is that your phone? Okay. Okay, can you turn off the vibration?
Okay.
Because I can't think when it's going off.
Got it.
Okay, thanks. Roger has a question here. Who is going to help push me over the edge so I can jump in? I have less than 10 years to retire. Hold on. It's not a funny question. I'm laughing about the phone. I have less than 10 years before I retire, folks. I'm 60. Here's the thing. He also says, I know I need to jump in, but I'm comfortable in my old school ways, and my old school ways are still working for me. I also know that you put in the chat that you had retired from the Navy, right? Branch of service out there. Yeah.
10 years of my naval career.
Yeah. Okay. Roger, this is probably one of the most important questions you could have asked. It's, who is going to help push me over the edge so I can jump in? No one's coming to save you. That was one of the biggest things that we had to learn as well. No one, not a lender, not someone that you met that's going to bring you this deal, right? Waiting for it to fall in your lap. I think we were getting tired of waiting for the thing to fall in our lap, the opportunity to fall in our lap. The small steps that you started taking in the very beginning were the proof that I needed to jump in. Once we were both on board, once we were both jumping in, once we both understood no one is coming to save us, it's us against us, right? We're not out here fighting against anybody else either. If we're not taking the opportunity, it's us against us. And either we're going to be against each other or we're going to team up and we're going to go out there and take action. We're going to save us. We're going to save our kids. We're going to save our grandkids, and we're going to push this forward. We're going to jump in so hard that we're going to create this ripple effect, this wave that ends up crashing on a shore somewhere in a year we don't even exist in, because we were willing to jump in so hard. We were willing to do the long math. We were willing to stay up, watch the long live streams, right? We were willing to do things that others were not because they were comfortable to the same thing. We were comfortable as well. Sometimes it's easier to just stay there because it feels safe.
And you've said a lot. I think what sticks out to me is the words jump in. And jump into what? What's the goal? I hear you on retire in 10 years, but okay, magic wand, poof, you're retired today. What changes? Like what's required? What do you need between now and 10 years from now? And what is that gap? retired from the Navy, so I hear pension and I hear other pieces to this puzzle that
Right.
you have in place. So there's a reason why you haven't retired already. And so what is that gap between, and I'm not looking for you to answer it here. I'm just
Right.
saying these are the questions that come to my head is what's the gap? And let's say and I like to apply a number to it. You tell me the gap is because of A, B, C, and D. Now let's put a number on that. What does that mean mathematically? And now what are you doing right now to bridge that gap? You know, if it's I'm a day trader or I've got rental properties, I'm in self-storage, like whatever those things are that you're doing to help bridge that gap. And now let's assess whether that's enough. If that's not enough, then what is that multiplier that needs to happen to help it become enough? And at your age, and I'm just going to say it, at our age, here's what I know we don't have time for. We don't have time for loss. We don't have time for insecurity. We need security. Whatever it is we're going to do to bridge this gap over these next 10 years, it needs to be done securely. It needs to be done so that it doesn't matter who's president, doesn't matter what interest rates are, doesn't matter what Elon Musk did or didn't blow up. You need to make sure whatever those actions are that you take, they're done in a secure fashion, and you can't lose the money that you're making. That I know. But now what are we jumping into? Because the pool is large. There's a lot that you can jump into.
And there's people who've peed in the pool, so it's not all
It
good.
is tainted. It is quite, like, depending on what we're talking about, it is quite tainted. So
Yeah.
I would love to have a conversation about it, man. Because I think there are layers here that need to be peeled back. Because this is just so we're clear, this is not a velocity banking discussion, right? Velocity banking is a tool. It's a strategy. The first question is, what's the goal and what is the strategy required to hit that goal? It may or it may not be velocity banking.
Well, and that's what I was going to say is, Roger, I think it's the bigger picture conversation at this point, especially because you had talked about in the chat. And thank you so much for sharing too, because I think it gives other people, like, I would rather share this information and get feedback on this information versus just keep it to myself and wonder what the answers are to my equation. If you have kids and you're hoping to leave something for your children, if you're hoping to help them and give them leverage in the event that you aren't here, or when, because really it's not a question of if, right? It's when, for all of us. It's let's have that conversation so that we can then maybe pull them in, because you having this and you feeling you lacking confidence in getting started, that will end with you if you're not able to pass on the information, the knowledge, and the confidence with the strategy so that they can keep it going, right? That's the other part of that. So anyone who is feeling like we have Roger here, who has been, thank you for sharing, by the way, and asking these questions. Yeah. Anyone feeling like this, it is worth just getting on, jumping in to get our free resources, keep watching, keep learning, keep writing down your questions, showing up to the live streams. And on that note, Johnson's asking, so now you guys are streaming on Tuesdays? What's going on? What are you guys doing? We were figuring out what we wanted to do and what fit better into our schedule and everyone else's as well. So we're landing on Tuesdays at 5:30.
We're landing on Tuesdays today. It may shift. Like we are absolutely playing around. We jumped on Saturday just to be jumping on, did we not?
We did, yeah. But we are picking Tuesdays.
Tuesday is absolutely a day, but there may be others. We may move it, and we intentionally, if we do that, what we're not doing is scheduling it and forcing people to kind of readjust things. We know we're jumping on at a weird time. We're kind of testing out to see what the algorithm does or doesn't like about it, and all of those kind of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, we personally like Tuesdays at the moment, and so we will be sticking with that so far. If you see us on a different night, it's mainly because we're testing something out and want to try something, or I got irritated this past weekend, so that was kind of why we jumped on Saturday.
Yeah.
It was
to rant.
Yeah, it was literally, and I won't go into it. We jumped on Saturday simply because I had a bug that I needed to get off.
No, Saturday's an important one, so watch the replay if you missed that one for sure. Yes, so jump on if you have questions. Definitely jump on. Let's see. I wasn't able to qualify. Not sure here. This sounds like you should get on a call for sure, but let's try. My credit finally hit 708. Congratulations, by the way. That's great. I wasn't able to qualify for credit, so I leveraged my dad's. He had a Discover card, I'm assuming, line of credit with a $4,500 balance since being added as an authorized user, and I've been adding all of my income. Leverage.
Yep.
That's it.
And I think that's one of those, like, that's one that I would have never put in the list because, one, could my son leverage my credit to do, like, yeah, he can, but that's something I would have never thought about.
Yeah.
So, no, I think that's perfect. What it shows is it's understanding where leverage is located, understanding how to use it, and put it to work.
Well, we did have a couple of you had a call recently because afterwards you had shared it with me about a mother and daughter and how she was able to, and that's another case study we should actually do.
So I know where you're going with that. So that's actually something a little bit different. It's mom was able to qualify for a line of credit with no problem, and excuse me, and her main objective was to be able to pay down, pay off debt, pay off her home, all of those different things. But one of the pieces she wanted to add to this line of credit was her daughter also had a debt that she wanted to get rid of, and there was an opportunity to involve like she could get a line of credit large enough to I guess encapsulate all of the debt, hers and her daughter's, and now she's leveraging what her daughter's able to pay back to be able to drive down the balance even faster, do infinite banking to be able to get to her goal quicker. And so you're right, that's another one that I think is somewhat unique because it's an opportunity to be able to use other pieces that we traditionally don't talk about, and that is leverage of a child or a parent to be able to do some of these things as well.
Yeah, Brenda, good to see you, by the way. I love to see people encouraging others in the chat. I love to see it inside of our community too. So we've had a come to Jesus moment about where we're going with our family, with our, everything really since the top of the new year. And we've been implementing a lot of that since then. A lot of what we're trying to do is be able to serve more efficiently and more effectively and make sure that we have some balance in there so that we aren't just burning out. And that's, that was important to us because we know that this has to be sustainable in order to continue, right? We can't do that without your support. And we really appreciate you, every single one of you, for showing up here and hanging out with us on these live streams, for asking the good questions, for all of those who were brave enough to book their first call, for those who were smart enough to book their third call or fourth call, to take this strategy into action so that they could answer the question, then what? So many people, how many, probably countless, how many people can now answer the question, then what? Simply because they had 30 or 45 minutes on the phone with you.
Thousands.
That's crazy.
Easily.
That's crazy to think of how long you will be sitting there wondering to yourself, maybe, perhaps, then what? Yeah, I don't know how to answer that. Then what? Now I can't sleep at night. Miss AB was in there going, that was the question when I first tuned in to your channel. And that was the question that had me subscribe. Like, then what? If you haven't, by the way, go ahead and subscribe while we're there. But that's the point is, if you can't answer that question, why not see what 30 or 45 minutes could do for you? Okay. So you can do that at, here, we'll do that. selfdirected.info /calendar. That's it right there. And we, as always, we are so grateful for your time that you spend here with us. I think that's it.
Let's do it.
All right. We like to end with, if you didn't come from a wealthy family,
You can make sure a wealthy family comes from you.
so stay tuned,
Stay protected.
stay focused.
Stay connected.
I'm Angelique,
And I'm Donnell.
and our goal is to help you.
Always get self-directed.
And to do that, we have a ton of free resources, and we're adding more all of the time. Thank you so much for spending your time here with us. We'll be back here for sure next Tuesday, 5:30 Pacific Standard Time. It's 9:30.
So we're on
8:30.
5:30. We're doing
5:30.
5:30. I like
Okay.
that. Okay. I like
5:30. That's 8:30 Eastern Time, and all the times in between. Have a good
missed
night,
that.
everyone.
Have a good night.
Hey, before you go, we want to remind you that becoming fully self-directed means gaining complete control over your wealth, time, and freedom. It's not just an idea. It's a framework, a mindset, and the power to make informed decisions to secure your future. Being here means you're taking those steps, and we want to thank you for allowing us to guide you. We believe that we grow farther and faster when we grow together. So tune in next time and tell a friend to tell a friend. We've helped thousands of people just like you start their journey to financial freedom. And if they can do it, you can too. And if you're ready to learn more, we got you. Get a head start by grabbing these 2 free books. But how do they get them, Donnell?
Head over to my website where you'll have access to a few things. A ton of free resources, case studies, and over 100 5-star reviews from people just like you. And in 15 minutes, we can explore what's possible for you. So don't wait.
Invest in what you want, when you want.
But first, let us help you get
Self-directed.